On November 29, 1947, the United Nations General Assembly passes the resolution to partition Palestine into two states, one Arab, one Jewish.
Assembly President Aranya announces the vote.
Was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
The Jews are euphoric. Celebrations break out in the streets. But Ben-Gurion, chairman of the Jewish Agency, reacts differently.
I could not dance. I knew that we faced war, and that in it we would lose the best of our youth.
An aging politician with no military background, Ben-Gurion has set out months earlier to transform himself into a military strategist, reading intensively on military matters, interrogating Haganah commanders, and visiting Haganah units and arms depots. What he finds appalls him. The Haganah is woefully undermanned, undertrained, and ill-equipped. Nonetheless, he adopts a daring decision.
No settlement would be abandoned, even if it were included within the boundaries of the Arab state.
The decision stretches the Haganah's forces thin, as it needs to maintain access to every Jewish settlement. Ben-Gurion's predictions of Arab violence are borne out. The day after the UN vote, a bus carrying Jewish passengers is attacked, killing 5. Violent city clashes break out, and Arab bands roam the country, leaving scores dead. The British openly intervene on the side of the Arabs. Ben-Gurion biographer Michael Bar-Zohar writes,
"Sometimes they disarmed Haganah members and handed them over to an Arab mob, which brutally murdered them. On other occasions, they confiscated the meager arms of Jewish convoy escorts."
The British also hand over key fortresses and tactical positions to the Arabs. Most of the Arabs in Palestine look to the Mufti Hajj Amin al-Husseini, who has 2 guerrilla forces operating in the center of the country. In the north, the former Syrian officer Fawzi al-Qaukji leads the invading Arab guerrilla army of liberation. In January 1948, Qaukji's forces make the first attempt to overrun a Jewish settlement, Kfar Zold in the Galilee. That same month, one of the Mufti's forces attacks Kfar Etzion, one of 4 small Jewish villages 14 miles south of Jerusalem in what is called the Etzion Bloc. When 35 Haganah fighters attempt to relieve the Etzion Bloc in January, they are wiped out by Arab villagers. Though the Arabs fail to overrun these settlements, they recognize communications are the weak point in the Jewish defenses. Chaim Herzog writes in the Arab-Israeli Wars,
"Most of the supply convoys were ambushed and destroyed, leaving the Negev, Jerusalem, the Etzion Bloc, and part of Galilee cut off."
The political implications of Jewish setbacks on the ground are far-reaching. On February 13th, Moshe Sharet, in charge of the Jewish Agency's political department, sends Ben-Gurion an anxious report from New York.
"The Americans want to do an about-face."
The blow falls on March 19th, when Warren Austin, head of the U.S. delegation to the UN, proposes at the Security Council,
We believe that a temporary trusteeship for Palestine should be established under the Trusteeship Council of the United Nations.
Ben-Gurion swiftly rejects it.
We will not consent to any trusteeship, neither provisional nor permanent, not even for the briefest period. We will no longer accept the yoke of foreign rule, whatever happens.
Haganah's chief of operations, Yigal Yadin, sums up the situation at the end of March.
"The only solution is to take the initiative into our hands, to try to achieve a military decision by going over to the offensive."
On the evening of March 28th, with Jewish Jerusalem on the brink of starvation, Ben-Gurion gathers the heads of the Haganah at his home.
At the moment, there is one burning question, and that is the battle for the road to Jerusalem. The fall of Jewish Jerusalem would be a death blow.
The decision is to send a strike force of 1,500 men to break through to Jerusalem. To make up such a large force, arms and troops are withdrawn from some settlements. On the eve of April 6th, what is known as Operation Nachshon begins. It breaks through the Arab blockade, and a series of convoys make it to Jerusalem, resupplying the Jewish community with arms, food, and reinforcements. Though a limited success in military terms, since the Arabs will again block the road to Jerusalem, the operation is a turning point in that the initiative has now passed to the Jews. Bar Zohar writes,
It served as the military answer to the American trusteeship proposal. It also was important for Ben-Gurion. From Operation Nachshon, Ben-Gurion emerged as a true military leader.
With Operation Nachshon at its height, the underground Irgun and Lehi, coordinating the operation with Haganah commander Colonel David Shaltiel, attacked Deir Yassin, one of the Arab villages blocking the road to Jerusalem. The village is strongly defended, and in the end, 120 Arabs are killed, many of them women and children. Though it was not a premeditated massacre, and the action was strongly condemned by the Jewish Agency and the Haganah High Command, these deaths have remained a source of anti-Jewish propaganda to this day. In revenge, the Arabs massacre a convoy on its way to Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. Over 70 Jews, among them prominent doctors and professors, are killed in the attack. British forces a short distance away refuse to intervene. In April, the Jews open up a series of offensives in order to gain maximum strategic depth in preparation for the expected invasion of regular Arab armies upon Britain's exit on May 15th. That month, Jewish forces capture Tiberias and Haifa. By mid-May, Safat and Jaffa have been conquered. Ben-Gurion is determined to declare independence by May 15. On May 12, he sits in an 11-hour marathon meeting attended by 10 members of the People's Administration to make the final decision. The U.S. urges delay, and opinion among members is divided on whether to declare a state. As night falls, bad tidings flow in. Of the Etzion bloc under siege, bitter fighting on the road to Jerusalem, and news that the Egyptians have attacked in the south. Against this backdrop, the committee votes 6-4 to proclaim a Jewish state. Yigal Yadin says,
The decision on the proclamation was solely due to David Ben-Gurion. In its significance and its impact, that decision was comparable to thousands of military operations.
On May 14, at the Tel Aviv Museum, Ben-Gurion declares the State of Israel. That same day, all the Jews in Kfar Etzion, the largest of the Etzion bloc villages, are killed, and the survivors of the other villages taken captive. In his diary, Ben-Gurion writes,
At for the proclamation of independence. Throughout the country, there is profound joy and jubilation. And once again, as on 29th November, I feel like the bereaved among the rejoicers.
So ends the war before the war. The war with 5 Arab states is set to begin.